Let's welcome the Minister for School Standards, Nick Gibb, who joins us. Good morning to you, Nick.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Let's talk about this £1 billion fund to help kids who've missed out on schools catch up. First question, really, is £1 billion enough to help millions of children who haven't had any education for 6 months to catch up?
Well, it's a huge sum of money, £650 million for schools to decide how to use that money to ensure that children who've been at home and who may not have been as assiduous in their studies as they should have been can catch up on their studies. And £350 million is for disadvantaged children. And we're working with the Education Endowment Foundation and some established tutor companies to provide one-to-one online tuition for those pupils. It's a very significant sum of money because as a government, we are absolutely determined that no child should have their education damaged as a consequence of the coronavirus crisis. We want their life chances to be restored. Rapidly after the return to school.
Well, look, it's a good aim. I'm fully in support of this. I'm very, very anxious about the number of children who just from ordinary homes and not just disadvantaged homes who are missing out on their education. But wouldn't it be better to concentrate on making sure, in the first instance, that every single school is providing lessons right now online, and not every school is. 2 million kids not getting any classes that are meaningful at all. Wouldn't that money be better spent on frankly, kicking the backsides of some head teachers and teachers at some schools and making sure they do the job they're already being paid to do?
Well, schools are doing a great job.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Yes,
2 million.
no.
2 million kids aren't getting an education at all at the moment. How can you possibly say? Oh, not some schools are doing a brilliant job, but not all schools are.
Yes, there are all kinds of these studies, but my experience is that schools are doing a great job in providing online lessons for schools. We ourselves, as a government, launched within 2 weeks of closed down, with 40 excellent teachers, the Oak National Academy providing 180 online lessons, high-quality lessons a week for all years of children's education, which parents can use as well as schools. We provided free resources as well, online resources that schools can use and children can use. So they are working very hard into providing education and work for children at home, but nothing is better than children being in front of their class teacher. And that's why we have this phased opening of schools, starting with reception year 1, year 6 from the 1st of June and part-time for year 10 and 12 from the 15th of June. Carefully staged, carefully phased in line with the medical evidence. And then our clear intention, of course, Julia, is that we want all schools open by September so they can resume their education and they can start this catch-up.
But can I just say, I've got friends who are probably they're not disadvantaged, not in a disadvantaged area. Their school is providing to primary school pupils one worksheet on a Monday and told you're not allowed to contact their your teacher more than one email a week. No other contact, no second email allowed, even if there's a problem. Are you telling me that school's doing a good job?
No, there are some schools that are better than others.
Exactly.
And what we've been doing since 2010 is to improve our whole school system. So when we came into office, something like a third of schools were not good enough. Now that's down to 14%. We want it to be lower still. We continue the work of improving all our schools to give I want to make sure that every parent can be reassured that their local school is a good school. And that programme of school improvements and school reform and education reform continues and will continue.
All right. Again, I absolutely fully support what the government has done in the past since 2010 to improve schools, and particularly for the most disadvantaged pupils. Fully behind all of that, and all credit to you for that. But I'm afraid we're going to be losing a generation of children in just 6 months. Let's talk about what Northern Ireland has done, though. They've decided to cut the 2-metre social distancing rule to 1 metre in order to get kids back to school. That would make it a lot easier for a lot of schools in this country to get more pupils back in and make sure they were getting their learning, given the incredible amounts of scientific and medical evidence now that children are not at risk from coronavirus and not a very, very small risk of them passing coronavirus on to adults, whether teachers or parents. Should we not be following Northern Ireland in England and in Scotland and Wales and moving to 1 metre social distancing in schools?
Well, we never based our approach on the metre distance, 2 metres or 1 metre. We've always based it on the advice that we needed to minimise children's movement in the community and around schools and to keep the numbers low. That's how we came up with the bubbles. The bubbles don't mix with one another. Those group of 15 children will not mix with the other groups of 15 children. We're minimising pinch points, a lot of hygiene in schools, washing of hands, cleaning and so on. That's been our approach to how we can get over 1 million children back into schools in a phased, safe way. So that's been our approach. We think it's the right approach. And of course, all during this crisis, schools have been open. 90% of schools have been open the whole time for the children of critical workers and vulnerable children.
Okay, let's also talk about GCSE and A-level results going to come out in August as normal, but not really normal because, of course, children haven't taken those exams at all this year. It's based on teachers' predictions. My worry was that predictions would be a bit unfair because people like me who did badly in their mocks wouldn't get the grades that they would have got if they'd done the exams and performed on the day. Turns out, it's the other problem. Teachers have been far too generous predicting their draft grades, so they're going to have to be lowered. 1/3 would have to be downgraded by the exam bodies if we were to actually even out to the sort of exam grades that children are achieving in previous years. That's going to make those exam boards and the government pretty unpopular, isn't it? How are you going to handle that?
Well, Ofqual, the regulator, Ofqual, we've been working very closely with them on this, and their determination is that we would have a system that is absolutely fair. And so when you look at the whole grades awarded this year through the calculated grade system, it'll be broadly similar to previous years. So this year's group will not lose out. And we wanted to make sure that despite cancelling the exams, which we had to do for health reasons, that those children could still move on to the next stage of their education or their work, whatever they want to do next. And that's why we have the calculated grade system, where the schools estimate, not just based on the mock, but based on a whole raft of evidence, that they calculate the grades they think they would have got had they taken the exam. And then they then put those children in rank order. Those results are submitted to the exam board. They then standardise it, and they look at the school's previous results to make sure they're not out of kilter with the previous years, and that will then lead to the grade being awarded on the 13th or the 20th of August when the results come out. If a student is not happy with that result, they can opt, if they want, to actually take the exam, and we put on a special autumn season of exams, October, November, for them to retake.
But again, that's going to be much easier for the kids who've had lessons all this term.
Of course, but that's why the GCSEs will be in November, so there is some time for them to try and catch up to take those exams again. And there's no risk attached either, because if the result they get is lower than the calculated grade, they can take whichever is the highest, will be on their certificate.
We are heading towards difficult times. When do you think, just finally, by what year do you think that children are going to be caught up and this generation is going to be on a par with other countries, or indeed just other children in this country who have continued to have lessons throughout this whole lockdown period? Is it going to be done by 2021, or are we looking about decades?
Well, you said earlier about a lost generation. We do not want there to be a lost generation, and we will do whatever it takes to prevent that from happening. And that's what this £1 billion is about making sure that over the course of this next academic year, that there will be support to help get those children caught up by the end of that year. But, we'll look at see what happens, we'll see how effective it is. And, if it's not working and children haven't caught up by the end of the year, we will do more in the years after that to make sure that no child loses out as a consequence of this virus.
Well, let's hope so. I think the country will certainly all back you in that. Thank you very much for joining us, Education Minister Nick Gibb.